Putting our light on a stand and letting it shine brightly, like the Hanukkah menorah or the candles in Debbie's windows, so that all can see the light. As Unitarian Universalists, we tend to be pretty comfortable with the idea of putting our own individual light on a stand. Some of us may find it hard to act on that sometimes. In this world, it's easy to lose conviction in the astonishing light of one's own being. But in our tradition, there's a deep commitment to honoring the inherent worth of all. We believe, in theory at least, in letting that individual light shine out. But putting the light of Unitarian Universalism on a stand, that is another matter. That gets awfully close to evangelizing or even proselytizing. We're mostly not so comfortable with that. And yet the light of our chalice, the light of this faith, can be a beacon. And the inhibitions of religious progressives are not shared by all. If we don't display the brilliant image of this faith, other images will dominate, which can put us in a bit of a bind. It might be helpful to look to our history. Throughout Unitarian Universalism, there have been many who boldly brought this faith to the world, either by preaching it or by allowing it to inspire their own courageous lives, meeting the moment of their time in their way. As bright lights themselves, they helped shape this faith. These are our people. Their light is our light, too, just as our astonishing light will be carried forward by people we cannot imagine. So today we lift up 3 such people. Each spoke prophetic truth, and each held a vision of what could be, must be, and sacrificed for that vision. And their light can perhaps illuminate our own path and shine more broadly still for all to see. And because I know some of you like a sermon with footnotes, you should know there are a bunch of them in this one. So let's begin with John Murray, who made an appearance here just a few minutes ago. After preaching in Thomas Potter's chapel, Murray went on to become a renowned Universalist preacher with a large and growing following. He became a denominational organizer and a founding American Universalist. His is a wonderful story of adventure and serendipity and rising to the occasion. Murray's message was universal salvation. Not that all would be saved, but that all had been saved already, and nothing in our lives could take that away. This was theologically radical, but it's worth noting that he left nearly all Orthodox Christian doctrine unchanged. He was Trinitarian, believed in original sin, atonement through the death of Christ, and the inerrancy of Scripture. He even spoke of a limited punishment after death for actions in this life. He and I are in different places about, well, all of that. But what does resonate with me is his willingness to commit to the change he believed was needed, while also treasuring the past and honoring tradition. Unitarian Universalism is like that. This congregation is like that. We're constantly striving to be the congregation that best meets this moment, while holding on to what we cherish from our past. We might not all agree on where to draw the line between what should be changed and what should be preserved, but a practice of holding both has been with us since the beginning. And Murray was committed to the change he believed in. Powerful people tried to stop him from preaching with physical threats. He was charged with vagrancy and sedition. Legend has it that one Sunday, someone threw a large rock through a window as he preached, and it narrowly missed killing him. Murray picked up the rock and held it high, saying, "This argument is solid and weighty, but it is neither rational nor convincing." Apparently, he had a sense of humor. And he persisted. He put the light of universalism on a stand and used the light of his own being to move it forward. Even though this role was not, by his account, what he envisioned, indeed, it was apparently not what he wanted at all. But still, he left room for something beyond himself. He remained open to new directions that presented themselves. Many modern Unitarian Universalists, me included, tend to be concrete thinkers. We like to reason our way out of problems. We like a theology that makes logical sense, and we place our trust in human agency. As we do, we sometimes lose our openness to unexpected possibilities and the movement of something that might be called mystery or spirit in our lives. Murray left room for mystery. Our lives and this faith are richer and brighter when we do the same. The second person for today is the 19th century Unitarian, Lydia Maria Child. Child was an advocate for women's rights and an abolitionist, remembered today for the unusual clarity with which she saw injustice and the courage with which she spoke that truth. Child drew attention to racial injustice that other white people missed or could not clearly articulate. Her early connections with Native Americans led her to advocate for their rights. And at age 22, she published a novel that presented Native Americans with unheard-of sympathy. Before she was 30, she was an avid abolitionist, bringing her literary talent to that cause. She saw the evils of systemic racism before there was language to describe it. Her 1833 book entitled Appeal in Favor of That Class of Americans Called Africans not only argued for the end of slavery, but offered two new insights. The first was the soul-destroying impact of slavery on white people. It was common to object to slavery because of the appalling impact on the enslaved. Far less common to recognize that the disconnect between claimed values and actions was also injuring slave owners and other white people. Today, we might call that moral injury. Her second insight was about the prevalence of and harm caused by Northern racism. This wasn't just a Southern problem. She shared numerous examples, including the treatment of Black people in her own Unitarian church. She highlighted the ways in which Northern whites benefited from slavery, even as they remained oblivious to those benefits and failed to confront their own complicity. In response to this work, Northerners stopped buying all of her writings, leaving her impoverished. And still, she spoke out. She tried to persuade the famous Unitarian William Ellery Channing to join the abolitionist movement, but for many years he didn't. His congregation contained people whose wealth was enriched by slavery, and his living depended on those people. Eventually, much later, after the point when speaking out would leave him impoverished, he joined the effort. Child's insights are less radical and dangerous today than they were 200 years ago, at least at the moment. But the bright light of this faith makes this a home for prophets who are ahead of their time, who take personal risks and make sacrifices for what they know to be true. And throughout history, people like Lydia Maria Child take that light and make it brighter still with the light of their own being. as they show us that this faith means more and asks more of us than we understood. Child might invite us to pay attention to the prophets of our time. Who is here now? Perhaps speaking words that challenge us and leave us uncomfortable. Who is showing us what Unitarian Universalism means today? And how well are we listening? Finally, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. Some of the kids in their groups right now are learning about Harper. She was also a prominent writer, with a career that started about 20 years after Child. She was active in an astonishing array of social justice movements, including abolition, suffrage, temperance, children's rights, women's rights, and the Black literary movement. She got around. And she was an eloquent speaker who challenged social norms over and over. Harper brought the concept of intersectionality to these movements long before there was a word for it. She was way ahead of her time. When she spoke at a women's rights convention in 1866, she started with the now well-known quote, "We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity." A familiar Unitarian concept. That probably landed well. But she didn't stop there. Instead, she spoke to that audience of predominantly white women about the ways in which the oppression she experienced as a Black woman was different from theirs. "You white women speak here of rights," she said. "I speak of wrongs." I wonder how many in the crowd could hear that part. After all, the suffrage movement is not generally remembered for its embrace of intersectionality. But then the gloves came off. As long as this inequality existed, in her words, if there is any class of people who need to be lifted out of their airy nothings and selfishness, it is the white women of America. That's the thing about being a prophet. Sometimes you speak a hard truth to people who are not ready to hear you. But this prophet found a home in Unitarianism. Well, a partial home. Like many African American Unitarians, Harper also maintained membership in an African Methodist Episcopal Church. She was theologically aligned with the Unitarians. But the Unitarian Church was not in practice as welcoming to her as that theology would suggest. And yet, she is our prophetic religious ancestor. The astonishing light of her being is part of the bright light of Unitarian Universalism, and there is something of her in us today, calling us to continue to strive for justice in our great bundle of humanity, to be brave when speaking truth, and perhaps also to continue to be more welcoming to those who still struggle to belong here. There are many other bright lights in the history and present of this faith, including each of us. Why would we hide the light of this faith? Why not place it on a stand? We do tend to have an aversion to evangelizing. Sometimes that means we don't talk about Unitarian Universalism at all with people who aren't already here. But what if we did? The Greek root of evangelism is one who tells good news. Could we do that? Could we speak of the difference Unitarian Universalism has made for us? On social media, if we go there, with friends? And can we bring it even more explicitly into our work for justice? The Democracy Crisis Response Steering Committee here at Albany UU has been doing fabulous work lately, curating and clearly communicating a variety of opportunities for us to engage with the issues of this moment. If you aren't on the list that receives their weekly bulletin, I encourage you to sign up. check your windows weekly, or contact the church administrator. And when we're doing that work, rather than just pushing back on injustice, can we share the positive vision that this faith offers? Can we use Unitarian Universalism to counter conservative religious stances with public, faith-based positions of our own? This is not a timid faith. It has been shaped by prophets who met the moment in their time. It is being so shaped now. Why not let it shine for more to see? We won't all be as articulate or risk-tolerant as Murray, Childs, or Harper. But we can, in our own way, practice bringing Unitarian Universalism more overtly into our lives. And if we do, not only will we grow, but this faith will continue to be ever more welcoming, joyful, and courageous in this world that needs its light. And who knows who might see that light today or in a future that extends beyond what we will ever know. Let us pass on the light and make it so. Amen.